Welcome back to Good Morning Interbike. We're here at the Mandalay Bay Convention Center in Las Vegas, Nevada for the 2013 Interbike Expo. It's the second day of the Indoor Expo, and we are pleased to be joined once again by Joe Breeze. Welcome back to Good Morning Interbike.
Thank you very much, David.
It is
for
good to
having
have
me.
you back.
Yep, I'm happy to be here.
So, when you were last on Good Morning Interbike, you brought a bike with you. It looked a little less advanced than this one, but that bike is in a kind of a unique location. Tell everybody again where that bike is now.
Well, Breezer number 1 has since gone on to the Smithsonian Institution back in Washington, D.C., where it will live out its life there. which
is, I mean, you've got to be very proud to have something that you created at the Smithsonian. That's a big deal.
I am, and it's been as time has gone on, as the mountain bike just went on to one level, then the next level, and how far is this going to go? And it goes beyond our America to Europe, and eventually the gears are turning. It's like, where is this Breezer number 1 going to go?
Yeah.
And along in the 80s, I thought maybe someday that call might be made. The way this mountain bike thing is progressing, and sure enough, there it went last March out to Washington.
Which is really cool. Congratulations. You should be proud.
Thank you very much.
And of course, for those of you, and I can't imagine that you don't, but for those of you who don't know, Joe is really one of the pioneers in mountain biking in Northern California. You guys were modifying bikes and to go riding off-road way back in...
Started riding a fat tire bike in 1973. A buddy of mine said, "Hey, Joe, offer $5 to this guy for this old clunker bike," and I'm looking at him like he was crazy.
Yeah.
I took it for a ride down Mount Tam and was immediately hooked. And we went on and adapting this and that to the bikes to make them go uphill and downhill, and people just started asking me to build frames, and I was a road bike builder, and I made those first Breezers in 1977, and they were the first modern, frame built from the ground up for mountain bike, and first shiny new mountain bike.
When you walk around the show floor and you see mountain bikes everywhere of all different 26, 27 and a half, 29, they're everywhere. Do you walk around and sort of, are you like a proud father?
No, maybe occasionally. I don't know. I try. I don't know. I like to ride a bike, not think about it too much.
Oh, that's great. Now, when you and your friends, also a lot of mountain bike pioneers, were riding Mount Tam in Northern California, there was an event up there, the Repack.
Yeah, Repack.
Tell us about
Repack.
that.
Yeah.
What's Repack?
Well, Repack is really the crucible of the sport. It was a downhill. It dropped 1,300 feet in 2.1 miles, about 50 plus turns going down, and it drew all us people crazy about this new fat tire bike together from all around Mount Tamalpais. This is just north of San Francisco. Together on a regular basis to share our love for what was going on and share the technology we were working on, such as it was. And it was from Repack that it spilled kind of beyond our borders. It wasn't just another isolated occurrence, of which there have been many over the years, right? People have been riding fat tire bikes or just bikes off-road because there were no roads once upon a time, right? But what happened in Marin was kind of a special deal with this certain flavor of fat tire riding, and it spilled beyond our borders about 1979. The Repack name has been known about in the sport, but you hadn't seen it around, and that's because the Repack impresario, if you will, who put on all these 24 races way back in the late 70s, Charlie Kelly.
Right.
Who teamed up with Gary Fisher and developed mountain bikes, the company mountain bikes in 1979, the first specific mountain bike company ever at their shop in San Anselmo. Charlie held on to that name. Even after the 70s, maybe there'd be a tire that somebody wanted to call Repack, and he'd be there wagging his finger, no, or a bike, same thing. And so much later down the road, here I was. We're good buddies all along the way, right? And he, after we increased, where I sold the Breezer brand name to Advanced Sports, and in 2008, and Charlie and I were riding one day, and he's recognizing where I want to be going with bringing the mountain bike back in our line, with a long travel full suspension mountain bike, and thinking, hey Joe, if you ever want to use the Repack name, go for it.
Nice.
Yeah. So wow, and then a number of years down the road, I'm trying all these systems, trying to prototype and all these bikes, trying to come up with a really nice suspension system, and we're looking at a really nice long travel bike for all mountain riding. So we have this 160 millimeter travel front and rear, 27-inch wheel Repack bike, and I tell you, the two names have been joined at the hip from the beginning. You know that 16-rider iconic mountain bike photo. I saw 16 of us lined up with their bikes. It's often called readying for Repack, right? And in fact, that day we did go down Repack, but it was a special race that day. It was Alan Bonds put on a race called the Enduro. Okay, and we started up high on Pine Mountain above Repack and ended by racing down Repack. And so those two names, Enduro, like an enduro bike, and Repack, have been joined at the hip since, and it just seemed like the natural one. But another point was that people riding enduro bikes today seem to be having the most fun in mountain bikes. And we were having the most fun in mountain bikes back then, so it was like the feeling, the social aspect of enduro riding and the fun that everybody's having. It just seemed like the perfect combination, those two names.
So it's got to be a pretty special bike for you to have put the name Repack on it. Tell us what makes,
Absolutely.
We were talking about it before. Tell us what makes this bike so unique and special. Okay,
so you'll notice there's a pivot in the middle of the chainstay zone, and we call it mid-link, and it's not a fifth pivot, but it's one of four in a four-bar suspension design, and Dave, 3 years back, these guys from David Earl and Lucas Beal from Soto Design in Santa Cruz came to me and said, hey, we'd really like to do suspension design for you at Breezer and with Breezer, and they ran some ideas by us, and they had been working on the Yeti Switch. And they had some ideas floating around the back of their head, Said, Joe, if we moved that pivot forward from, say, a long link bike and move that forward, well, we'd have a more rigid rear triangle here, better triangulation, okay? Or if we move the pivot back from the short link bikes, we'd have less bearing load. There wouldn't be so much leverage put onto the bearing, and we might get a smoother feel, okay? And so we eventually got some prototypes together, and wow, they rode pretty nicely, and this is really good. So we developed that with them, and they did the suspension kinematics work, how it all moved and traveled and all that good stuff, and I did my geometry work, and came up with this bike. We launched it in Eurobike, had a big media event there, and it got all over the web, and so people were waiting in line when we did the outdoor bike demo out here for Monday and Tuesday, and seemed to be getting really good response, because you never know. As much as you love the idea in the prototype type stages, it really matters with what all those people say. And people were coming back saying, oh my gosh, I can just ride this uphill without any platform, just run it wide open, take advantage of the travel going uphill. And they were saying, wow, and when you go downhill, it's just like automatic, and it's so forgiving. That was what was most often said. Man, I just went through some stuff I never thought I would, and this is just awesome. So. And
what you just said about going uphill is really important. You ride it full open, and yet you're still getting that power transmission, and you can still take advantage of suspension. And you're
getting even better traction when it's not locked out going up the hill. It doesn't bob. You've got power to the road. When you come up over a bump too, there isn't that point where you're trying to de-weight or something. It just goes right up and over it, just because of how the kinematics were designed.
And so you've really solved a lot of those problems that are inherent in a bike like that. Yeah.
It's putting that pivot in the middle is like the best of both worlds. It's so cool.
Really amazing. What does a bike like this retail for?
Well, this is our top of the line, the Repack Team, and its MSRP is $43.99. Okay. and we do our Repack Pro and a Repack Expert, and they come down to I think it's $28.99.
So an accessible price
Yeah.
for a really new technology that's going to revolutionize the way you ride.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I believe so.
That is really nice. And by the way, you can tell if I don't know if you guys are doing a close-up on this, but if you do one, you'll see this bike was ridden. I mean,
Yeah,
this is not a show bike. This was one that's actually been
Oh, I
out there
just
in the dirt.
dusted it this morning. Yeah, no.
But no, it's yeah, right. But I mean, and that really is the legacy, right? Is
Yeah.
that these bikes, you don't want them to be beautiful and clean. You want them dirty.
Yeah.
So that
someone was having fun on this very bike.
and that's a great thing. Where do you think you're going to take the brand in the future? Any ideas?
Yeah, well, certainly we're focused on transportation and mountain. I mean, we do a whole line of transportation bikes,
Right.
and that is my number one love. I'll tell you right now here with this full suspension bike. However, I do ride a mountain bike a lot, and just like I ride a town bike a lot, but instead of driving a car, I'll be on my town bike. So I'm just enjoying bikes more in my life. But where we'll go with this, it's maybe a little too early to say, but we have other bikes in the works using the M-Link platform, and so that'll be interesting to see what happens.
That's great. I mean, to go from the 70s to be an innovator to, the 2010s, 20-teens to be an innovator, not a bad career. You got to be proud of yourself. And Joe, it's always great to have you on Good Morning Interbike.
I'm just having fun, Dave.
That's good. I think we all are.
Keeping it going.
Thanks for joining us on Good Morning Interbike again, and thank you for joining us here on Good Morning Interbike. Stay subscribed to our YouTube channel. We'll have a lot more content for you from the 2013 edition of the Interbike Expo. Thanks for joining us.